Welcome to The Daily Pause with your host, Brandon Johnson.
Well, welcome to Wake the Bear Radio. This is Brandon Johnson doing a daily pause. I have a special guest on my show that I'm super excited to have on today. We have the same name, different last name, but we have a lot of the same thoughts and ideas. Brandon Straka is on the phone today. He's going to be telling us a little bit about his background, his journey, and we're going to ask him a few questions. And he is actually coming to Santa Cruz County. So I just want to point this out. The Lincoln Dinner is coming up this month, March 14th. And we are at a local site that we kind of have to keep under wraps because of the radical left, as I'm sure Brandon is familiar with how that all works. So, but yeah, we got a bunch of people coming. We're going to have a great dinner. We have some dancing, some music, some food. Brandon's a guest speaker. And so I just wanted to have him on here to just kind of give a taste to some of you who haven't heard him speak before and just kind of get a little bit more of a background with him. So, Brandon, are you there?
I'm here. How are you?
Oh, I am fantastic. Thank you so much for being on here today.
Oh, sure. Thanks for having me.
So, hey, I'm excited to have you. You know, this is Santa Cruz County. We're Northern California. Where we're opposite sides of the nation. You're in the deep blue area up there in New York, and we're here in California, Northern California, near San Francisco, probably about an hour and 10 minutes away from San Francisco. Santa Cruz is known, but it's also known for being very, very blue and being radically blue. And so we're actually seeing some ground being taken in Santa Cruz lately. And we've actually been seeing some whole growth in the GOP in this area. So we're excited about what is happening here. And having you, we believe, is going to be a big catalyst to that next step. So thank you for being on the show.
Of course. Yeah. Thanks for having me. And, I'm glad to hear that. California is very close to my heart, always has been. Walkaway is about to turn 8 years old in May. And I can't even count the number of times we've come to California, northern, southern, middle, and either done college tours, debates, minority focused events. I believe California is the most beautiful state in the entire country. And it's definitely worth fighting for.
Oh man, I agree with you. We almost moved when all the craziness got worse and worse and worse. My wife and daughter and I almost moved to middle of the nation, Texas, and we said nope, and we just felt God saying no, stay and fight for this state because it's worth it. So, thank you for coming here and thank you for fighting.
Oh yeah, no, it's like I said. I mean, people need to stay. They need to fight. I mean, otherwise, we're just ceding ground to the radical left, and they've already taken enough from all of us. So it's important that people stand up now more than ever and fight for what's important, and California is important.
Absolutely. Well, hey, so I got a couple questions I want to ask you. Coming 2018 that Walkaway began? I think it was what you said.
Yep, May of 2018.
A viral video that just took the internet by storm. You grew the Walkaway movement, 1 million views just on that one video. And now we're a bunch of years into it, and I got some questions I have about what you've learned from it. And one of the ones that comes off right off the bat, my co-host asked me to ask you is, why do you suppose there's such a deranged hate, visceral hate for both the right and for Donald Trump? Why do you think this exists? I mean, did you kind of have that kind of feelings when you were more liberal, or how did it change? How did you wake up?
Yeah, no, I did. I definitely did. I felt exactly the same way about Trump. In 2016, that was after voting for Barack Obama twice. So I had really pledged my eternal allegiance to the Democrat Party. And I think, to answer your question about why the irrational, relentless hatred of Donald Trump and the political right, I mean, I think for the right, it's just because we are the party that Donald Trump affiliates with. But for him, it's really weird. I mean, it's a it should be studied in psychology textbooks for many, many centuries, because I believe Donald Trump has become a lightning rod for every person on the left. He has become like the symbol and the physical embodiment of anybody who ever hurt them their entire life. I think that girls with daddy issues look at him and see the father that hurt him. I think that people who haven't accomplished what they wanted to accomplish in their life look at him and see everything that they didn't become that they wanted to become. He is he just rubs these people so raw on and it's never really about what it's about, because no one could possibly get that angry about, I mean, half of the time they're angry about things that are good for them, like, congratulations, you're getting a tax break, and they're like, no, you monster, and so
Totally.
but it's to them it's like he just represents everything that didn't go wrong, or excuse me, that didn't go right in their life. And I don't know why. I mean, I don't think Trump derangement syndrome is like a joke. I think it should be like a bona fide psychological condition that's actually diagnosable and hopefully one day treatable. I did have it myself. I'm one of the, minority of people, although walkaway is, we have, I think, well over 1 million people that have joined the movement at this point. Hundreds of thousands of people have shared their walkaway written or video testimonials with us. But for me, the reason why I was able to get out of it, well, like from a more practical standpoint, I think the fact that I didn't go to college, um, because I always say the more the more educated a liberal is, the more indoctrinated they are. And I didn't experience all of that, like after high school indoctrination in a college or a university. But also, I had a true desire to not live that way. When Trump got elected, which was a huge shock, it was a huge surprise. The media that I trusted all but promised me that Hillary Clinton was going to win in a landslide and that Donald Trump had like a 3% chance of winning. And so I was like, how did they get it so wrong? And why would anyone vote for a man who's as terrible as the media has been telling me for the last 18 months, that he was campaigning, that Donald Trump is? And so I initially went on a journey to understand, how did the media that I trusted get it so wrong? And why would anybody vote for Donald Trump? And my hope was that by answering these questions, not that I would ever, I never thought that I would be okay with Donald Trump, never thought I would be okay with his supporters. I just wanted to try to understand it, because I thought to myself, if I can understand how this happened, then perhaps I can get through the next 4 years, because knowledge is power and I don't have to like it. But if I can understand it, I think I can cope with it and I can deal with it. What happened instead was, through my journey of understanding it, what I didn't expect to find out was that the media that I'd been trusting my entire life had been lying to me about everything. And that just about everything that I believed and everything that they had been telling me about Donald Trump and who he was and what he believed and what he was about and who his supporters were, none of it was real. And then that blew my mind. I mean, because for the first time, my mind started opening up to this concept that, like, holy cow, the media is not giving us news, they're giving us propaganda and misinformation with the intention of trying to control the way that we think and the way that we feel and ultimately the way that we vote. And so, I mean, it's very complex and very detailed, but this journey went on for many months. And when I came out the other side of it, I realized Donald Trump is not my enemy. The media that I've been trusting my entire life is my enemy. And that's when I knew I had to walk away from the left.
Wow. That's interesting that you point that out. I was just talking to my wife about that today, about how a lot of times the media will say things like, oh, those Donald Trump people aren't educated. They're uneducated people. And you're like, the people that are more educated think like us. And you're like, well, since 95% of all college professors are very, very left, like most universities can't even boast 5% of conservative professors, then yes, more college means more liberal, like more left.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and then you look at something like that and you start like losing your mind a little bit, going, okay, does the media know that they're lying and they're doing this on purpose, or are they indoctrinated too? Because it seems like many of them actually believe what they're saying. And I think the truth about that is that we're now at this point where this has gone on for so long that many of the journalists today have gone through journalism school being indoctrinated by Marxist professors. And so the system that initially probably knew that it was lying and knew that it was, deceiving people to control them, has now created a whole new generation or multiple generations since then who actually believe the lies. So now they're carrying the torch. They didn't light the torch or ignite the torch. They're actually carrying the torch. And I don't even think that they know. I think that they actually believe the lies that they're now telling.
Yeah, when you're deceived, you don't know you're deceived.
That's right.
It's interesting, what you described was you got very curious and you actually started doing high level reasoning and thinking, which is the problem with many of our universities. There's not like an actual balance of, weighing two different ideas. I mean, Jordan Peterson talks about that in some of the stuff he says. Like to think deeply about anything, you actually have to have two sides in your head warring it out to come to truth and conclusion. So you went on this curious journey to think deeply about these problems that you saw, or this reality that you saw, why it existed, and this is where it led you. That's crazy.
Yeah, and again, people give me credit all the time. Oh my God, you're so special, you're so unique for doing that. I'm like, I don't really think so. I mean, honestly, uh, uh, I did this because I felt miserable, and I mean, it was kind of just a self-serving, like, how can I get through this 4-year nightmare of Donald Trump? And then what I found out was unexpected. It was unintended. Now, I will say maybe perhaps where I can give myself a little bit of a pat on the back is that I made the decision to do something about it. Because believe me, I went through a period of time where I realized that I had been deceived and lied to, and that everyone I was spending time with was echoing and parroting these lies. And I thought to myself, well, if I start acting on or living on the new information that I've received, if I change my life, if I start telling the truth about what I'm now actually believing and feeling, I'm going to lose most of my friends. I'm going to lose the life that I once knew. I'm going to lose, family, job opportunities, and am I willing to put myself through that? And I did go through a period of time where I thought, well, maybe it would be easier just to keep this to myself and keep the same friends, keep the same life, keep the same circle. And when people are trash talking Trump and trash talking MAGA and whatever, I'll just smile and nod and laugh along, and but I'll just kind of keep quiet. And ultimately I decided I can't really live that way. I'm not comfortable living a lie. And ultimately too, it's like I'm not doing anything wrong. What I discovered is truth. Like I'm not, despite what the left would have you believe, it's not like I ran out and joined the Nazi party. I joined a movement of people who are awake and who see what's going on and who want to face reality and live in reality, and and make the world a better place. And that's what I've always wanted to do with Walkaway. So anyway, I mean, it wasn't an easy decision to make, and lo and behold, I did end up losing more than 90% of my friends, and my life got turned upside down, and it was a very rough experience. But in the end, I don't regret. The truth is important, and America is important, and freedom is important, and so these things are always worth losing everything for.
Yeah, the cost is high to live in truth, but man, is
Yes,
it worth it? And it takes courage. I mean, courage doesn't mean you're not fearful. I mean, we all have those
that's right.
dark nights of the soul where you got it, but you have to say, I'm going to be wed to the truth more than I'm going to be wed to just being comfortable.
Yeah, and you're right about that, and that's why I would say it's more important to be courageous than fearless. People say, "Oh, this person's fearless, or that person's fearless." Well, it doesn't take much courage to be fearless. If you don't have fear, you're just not afraid. But
Right.
if you have courage, you act in the face of fear, and that's what more people. We need more and more people every day to stand up and act in the face of fear. That's how we're going to save this country.
Absolutely. I was pontificating before we had this call, and I was thinking about just like some of the most crazy lies that were out there. The New York Times article on the Gaza child that was supposed to be starving, but the child was really had disease, and that finally came out. And then the whole J6 rally where BBC doctored up the audio to make it look like Trump said something that he didn't say. And
Horrible.
I'm just thinking to myself, man, is journalism dead? Because I mean, the legacy media feels like it's the journal that like real journalism is dead. And then that brought me to this question: as someone who started a movement and you counteracted that legacy media, what do you think is like? Well, let me put it this way: how do you curate your information? How do you actually do real fact checking versus like people that paid fact checkers, independent fact checkers from Facebook? How do you do that? How do you think deeply about these topics and find truth in media?
Yeah, well, I mean, to be honest with you, whenever possible, I try to, when I see stories circulating or something that catches my interest. Um, Perfect example, like literally right now in real time, just minutes before I started this article, my associate here at Walkaway, Paul, came out and he said, Kennedy just made a statement that apologizing for America bombing that school in Iran, and we're sitting there going, oh, and right away we got to work digging online. Did he really do that? Did that really happen? Because we're having trouble right now. Only the New York Post has reported that. But so when I get a piece of information that piques my interest or my curiosity or sounds like something we should be looking at or paying attention to, I usually try to corroborate it with multiple sources. Best case scenario, I try to find some sort of video evidence or footage to show me with my own eyes and ears that really did happen. Although with AI now, that gets increasingly challenging as well.
Yeah.
If it's a matter of a factoid or something, I try to look at statistics. I try to go on what's the word? Reliable, approved, trustworthy sources, whether it be statistical websites. God, I hate to say, but like government websites, FBI statistics, whatever,
Yeah.
and look it up. But people ask me all the time, well, what news do you watch? Well, not much anymore. Honestly, I mean, maybe years ago I would have even said, oh, I've switched to Fox. Not really. I mean, at this point, for me, it's. I just kind of try to look into, dig and find the information I'm looking for myself and try to corroborate it from multiple sources that I feel like I can believe in. And usually the best is my own eyes and ears. And logic. I mean, never discount, your own intuition and your own logic. There's too much of that. I think, we've been trained to second guess ourselves far too much. And, most of us have a gut instinct. I think when we hear something, when we see something, we're like, that doesn't sound right. And it's like, oh, well, yeah, but the New York Times is saying it, and the Post is saying it, and then this is saying it. And it's like, yeah, but it just doesn't feel right. I don't think I believe that actually happened. Well, it probably didn't, and I think it's keep looking until you find something that you know in your gut that you can trust and you can rely on. There was something else I was going to say about what you said, I myself dealing with the dishonest media. Um, well, I got to tell you, when I was going through January 6th, like I now consider myself to be like in a very elite category of people who have seen the absolute worst, the worst of the worst of the worst of the media, the worst of humanity, the worst of targeting by our own government. Before January 6th, I honestly, I almost saw everything as kind of like a game. The media would toy with me, I would toy with them, and
Right.
it was all, I'm not going to say it was good natured fun. I can't say it like that, but um, it was them trying to damage Walkaway. It was them trying to damage me as the leader of Walkaway. And it was, they would throw out some hit piece, I would counter it, and it kind of felt like a game. And then when January 6th happened, I learned a really hard, cold lesson about how much it's not a game at all. I
Mm.
mean, when I came to realize that the media, more, perhaps more than anyone else, but certainly just as much as any of the Biden DOJ prosecutors, judges, the media was working overtime to have me convicted and to
Wow.
have me put in jail and to further narratives about things that I didn't do to try to get me. And they were just repeatedly putting out stories, trying to have me further investigated, trying to have me charged with things I didn't do, trying to violate my probation. That was a big one.
Wow.
I was put on probation for 3 years. And during that 3 years, they never stopped putting out stories trying to and came very close. I got called in multiple times by my judge when I was on probation because she read stories and she was saying, if he doesn't want to be facing further charges, at one point she said to me, if he doesn't want to be facing felony charges of lying to the FBI, and this was all based off of stories the media was putting out. And I was like, my God, these people are willing to have me put behind bars and take my freedom away for years and years and years because they don't like who I voted for. And they don't like that I'm working to get other people to wake up and see the truth about the Democratic Party. This isn't a game at all. They're driving people to suicide. They're driving people to be falsely imprisoned. This isn't a game. There's nothing funny about it. This is how sick the media is. And so that's why I say, I'm being a little bit facetious, but I feel like I'm in a very elite category of people who know just how dangerous this actually is.
Wow. Yeah. The Pollyanna view of the world kept getting changed and darker and darker and darker until you realize, oh my gosh, the gloves are off, and these guys they'll take out whoever disagrees with them.
Yeah, and you're just roadkill. They don't care. I mean, I don't even think it's a trophy kill. I mean, maybe they high five each other when they get you locked up or drive you to suicide or whatever. But at that point, you just become a pawn in the game. For instance, here's a great example. I was recently credentialed to be able to attend press briefings at the Pentagon. Now, this was obviously, first of all, it is a big deal, but second of all, it was a really big deal to me because just a few years ago, my government considered me a terrorist. I was literally on domestic terrorist lists under the Biden administration. For several years, I wasn't even allowed to enter Washington, D.C. I was forbidden by law to go to Washington, D.C. Now I'm allowed to go to the Pentagon. And I got to tell you, for me, January 6th is in the rearview mirror. I don't think about it that much anymore. I just kind of have tried to move on with my life. But I was invited to attend the first press briefing that happened after the Iran strikes. And so my associate Paul and I flew to D.C. We went to the Pentagon. We attended the press briefing. Believe me, January 6th was not even in my mind. And I'm thinking, wow. And I'm posting to my followers, what a cool experience that I got to sit there in the front row and listen to Secretary Hegseth come out and talk about the situation and ask questions. And next thing I know, within 24 hours, stories are circulating in the media. January 6th insurrectionist gets front row seat at Pentagon, and it becomes this whole thing. And I'm going, my God, it was over half a decade ago. And I didn't even enter the building. I didn't commit any violence. I was outside of the building for 8 minutes shooting a video. I got a misdemeanor charge for disorderly conduct, which I didn't even commit any disorderly conduct. But over half a decade later, they're still willing to call me a violent insurrectionist because I'm a pawn in their game of damaging this administration and trying to make them seem like they're so unhinged that they would invite a violent anarchist into the Pentagon when in fact I'm in anything but they don't care. They don't care about the truth. They don't care about what this does to my name, my reputation, my family. They don't care that, I'm just a pawn in their war against Trump.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, I got one or two questions left because I don't want you to tell your whole story because we're going to have you here in person and people
now
I
don't even need to come.
Yeah, no, you definitely need to come. We're going to have a party. We're going to have you there. It's going to be amazing. So here's a question for you. As a nation, how are we going to unify and beat this radical agenda to destroy our country? And then the other question is, and if you could fix one thing about the Republican Party, what would it be?
Oh my God. Do I have to choose just one?
Either you can choose them both. You can do one or whatever.
No.
Oh, you mean like, yeah, yes. Plenty. There's plenty.
I have to pick one of the hundreds. Okay. Yeah. All right. So, how are we going to unify the country? Well, look, I promise you, I'm not just saying this in shameless self-promotion, but the only answer I can come up with is to bring this awakening and this light to as many people as possible, to further grow the movement, to get more people to see the truth about the Democratic Party, to walk away from the radical Marxism that is pulling our country apart, to open people's eyes about the truth of this horrendous media that we have that is destroying our country, our culture, our values, and to get people to have a thirst and a passion for seeking the truth. I mean, that is like, get people to turn off the mainstream media, to seek the truth, to stop hating their fellow American based off of lies and propaganda and misinformation, and ultimately walk away from the Democratic Party, the mainstream media, and the ideology of liberalism. And what is it about the Republican Party, if I had to choose one little thing? Well, first and foremost, that's on the tip of my mind right now, but I want to make clear it's certainly not the only thing, and it's among a long list of things that needs to change about the Republican Party, is that when we have power, we do very little with it. And we squander and waste the opportunities that we have to make lasting and meaningful change. And right now we control the House, the Senate, and the Oval Office. And I'm not going to sit here and say that there haven't been some really great things that have happened in the last year and 2 months. But my top 5 list of things that I wanted to see happen haven't even been touched yet.
Wow.
I wanted to see justice for the J6ers. I wanted to see the FBI and the DOJ thoroughly de-weaponized. And despite narratives that we're receiving, it has not been. I wanted to see complete and total election reform. I want to see people only able to vote if they can provide an ID. I want them to have to provide proof of citizenship to be able to vote, and to only be able to vote once legally on election day, with very few exceptions, and hopefully at some point paper ballots and no mail-in ballots. But here we are. We've got all the powers. We're probably pretty close to losing some of them in November if we don't make some serious changes quick. And it's very disappointing to me that when Republicans have power, they do very little with it.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. Great list. I 100% agree with you. And it's almost like they're so used to losing that they're not even going to try. They're not even really getting in there and fighting. They're just so used to kind of rolling over. We need fighters, man. We need guys like you who are just going to work in there's a famous quote from the scriptures that says, the truth will set you free. Well, if the truth sets you free, then error binds you and makes you a slave. And so we've got to have people that are actually hungry for the truth and they're really willing to fight for truth. That's Absolutely. A great list. Interesting. I have, I'm actually a pastor of a church, and I have a bunch of friends that are pastors. One I just talked to recently, Bangladesh just voted in their first Christian governmental leader, right? After many years being under Muslims, and literally the Muslim party, it's a major Muslim majority party or Muslim majority nation, and only 20% voted for the other guy, for the Muslim. So basically, there was overturned. 80% voted for this other guy, and the biggest thing that they're doing is just making freedom available to all their people for the first time, and they literally have to put their fingers in purple ink, right? So like Bangladesh has better voting than America. Like they have to show ID. They have to put their finger in purple ink, so they can only vote once. And there's no mail-in voting. Like some of these countries in third world countries around the world actually have better voting, parameters than we do in America. So.
Oh yeah, the United States of America is among the top countries that has the least secure elections. It's unbelievable, and it should never be this way in this country.
Yeah, I agree. Well, hey, this has been an awesome blessing to have you on. Thanks for jumping on with me. And we're looking forward to having you here in Santa Cruz County next Saturday, 6 p.m. The Lincoln Dinner. We brought back the Lincoln Dinner. It's going to be a nice event. A bunch of dinner, dancing, music, drinks, and an amazing speaker. Brandon Straka is going to be with us. So if you look at the screen here, I have a picture up of the actual 20% off. There's a 20% off coupon you can go if you add Lincoln 20 to your ticket purchase, and it's going to be an amazing night. We're just really looking forward to having you, Brandon, and really appreciate you coming on. And hopefully we get a chance to even talk further and ask even more deep questions so we can see if we can fix this this country and fix, we got a republic to save, right?
That's right. Yeah, no, for sure. I'm very much looking forward to it as well. Always love coming out to California. And yeah, I highly encourage anybody listening, please come out, get a ticket, because in addition to what we've talked about here today, you're going to hear a really amazing story about, an awakening, a movement that was sparked based off of people wanting better for their country and sharing their stories and unifying the country, and the very heavy price that I had to pay for telling the truth, and that sometimes people have to pay, but ultimately America's worth it. And I really hope people will come out, hear that story, and find out how they can get more involved in what we're doing, because this movement's awesome. I mean, obviously I'm biased, but it's really awesome. And
It is awesome.
I've never met anyone who didn't hear the story and say, this is incredible. How can I get involved? So come out, you guys, you're going to love it.
Yep, it's coming. Just coming Saturday. Get your tickets right away. Thank you, Brandon, for being on. Brandon, the Walk Away Foundation, #WalkAway. You can find him all over the place in media. He's getting the work done, changing hearts and minds, and it's just really great to have you on the show today. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Brandon.
Yeah. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Brandon. All right. I'll see you
Let's go,
soon.
Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon. All right. We'll see you next Saturday. Thanks for joining us on Wake the Bear Radio, and God bless you. And be awake, be alive, be strong, speak the truth, and let's change this country, change this state. Bye-bye. Awesome.
Thanks, man.